the official transfer portal window is now open, Iowa football receiving more player attrition news as it relates to its roster. Iowa reserve safety Reggie Bracy, who was on the two deeps basically all year, has entered the transfer portal. We'll get to that news in a moment. I want to tell you first about Ascent Nutrition and their Ascent Coffee. They've also got their pine pollen powder, their algae oil DHA, all great products and all available to you at a discounted rate. All right, folks, use the code Hawkeyes at goascentnutrition.com to receive 15% off courtesy of this show and Ascent Nutrition. You're supporting a business that's owned by a Hawkeye, former Iowa graduate, Lance Shuttler, who is from Iowa. Let's get to the news on this Monday. Reggie Bracy entering the transfer portal, a reserve safety for the Hawks much of the year. And Bracy, a junior, obviously looking for a place to play. That's why most guys are entering the transfer portal. Not always. Sometimes you've got guys who have been starters that enter. But more often than not, playing time is a factor. And I would guess it's been a factor with Reggie Bracy. He is a junior. And you look at the two deeps, you would say, well, he's got an opportunity to play next year. If Kayvon Merriweather is leaving, and we assume that he's leaving. I know he had tweeted out something the other day. Actually, it was before the Nebraska game that was going to be his last game in Kinnick. I know he accepted an invitation to the Senior Bowl, which he could pull out of that as well. Riley Moss did that last year. But from all indications, Kayvon Merriweather is moving on. And Reggie Bracy had been a backup at free and at strong safety much of the year. Of course, Iowa did some juggling with guys going down due to injury. Jamari Harris being one of those guys, Terry Roberts, they moved Cooper DeJean from Cash over to corner, and then Sebastian Castro, who had kind of been a safety, gets moved down to Cash. Xavier Wampa, I think, continued to improve as the year went on, continued to develop, and that's no surprise. Former five-star kid from the state of Iowa. He's obviously got a chance to start next year. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. Quinn Schulte also emerged at safety this year, but it sounded like the coaching staff really liked Bracy's flexibility at playing either safety position. So here's a guy now who is in the portal, has an opportunity to go somewhere and probably play right away. I think this is a guy who, even though he's not playing here, that's probably more of a result of just depth issues, or I should say a deep position group, and give Phil Parker credit, DB's coach for Iowa. He has built a deep plethora of defensive backs, and we don't know where the rest of these guys, I mean, think about guys like A.J. Lawson, Cohen and Tringer is a guy who came in last year as a freshman. Maybe those guys are emerging. They've got some athletes coming in this year that will likely end up being defensive backs. So Bracy's looking for an opportunity to play somewhere else. It is possible for him to return. I asked Kirk that question yesterday at the pre-bowl game press conference over Zoom, and just asked him, look, is it still open for a guy who enters the portal to return? And I think it just kind of summarized what Kirk said. It just kind of depends on the individual circumstance. So maybe Reggie Bracy goes out there, doesn't like what he sees and hears, and ends up coming back. I would say that's possible. And again, if he chooses to do that, he could play next year. I mean, he's probably going to be competing with Xavier Wampa. And you've got Wampa and Schulte. But I mean, I would probably say Bracy, at least from the outside looking in, is probably a top three safety right now, unless, there's something I don't know on the battles behind closed doors there. But with assuming Merriweather is moving on, Dallas Cradith, who struggled to crack the two deeps during his career, he's a highly recruited kid. He never really found a way into the depth chart as well. Jackson Rexroth was kind of a trendy guy earlier this year. And then, of course, Castro. What's going to be the future with Castro, DeJean? Once Harris is back next year, does Harris take over corner and Cooper go back to Cash? Those are all question marks. So obviously Bracy has a better handle on this than I do, but wherever Bracy goes, he's going to have an opportunity to play. And certainly he's been well coached. Phil Parker, the best in the business at developing defensive backs. I think that's clear. His reputation precedes him in that regard. So best wishes to Reggie Bracy if he does leave. But again, on this Monday, the 5th day of December, he has entered his name in the transfer portal. I do think we're going to get some news, folks, pretty soon regarding some players who are coming here. I mentioned earlier today on Twitter that former Iowa running back target Arnold Barnes, who's a 2023 back, he has reopened his recruitment after the coaching change at Nebraska. So did Nebraska pull the offer? Is he just reconsidering options due to the coaching change? Regardless of the situation, he has opened up his recruitment, and I can tell you Iowa has been in contact with Arnold. Sounds like we might get a decision from Arnold Barnes here by the end of the week. Iowa also hosting Arlen Harris, a transfer running back from Stanford, this past weekend. I know Kelton Copeland was recruiting a receiver out of the transfer portal this past weekend as well. And there's more news coming, folks. There's a lot going on right now behind the scenes. Iowa very active in this portal, and I would not be surprised to see more players from Iowa enter the portal. And we'll see on that. Side note, Iowa wide receiver Jordan Cum, who got famous because of his NIL deal with Come and Go. He has entered the transfer portal. Was just at Iowa 1 year. Transferred in from Iowa Central. He's an Ankeny native, so best of wishes to walk on Jordan Cum, who's in the portal as well. Stay tuned right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm for the latest. Please consider donating to the channel. Any amount helps. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, whatever is convenient for you, or credit card via the PayPal link below in the description. But stick right here throughout the week, throughout the month. The latest on Iowa and the transfer portal, the bowl game, all of it, and Iowa basketball, of course, right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm.